Pamelah.
To be back with you again in our wonderful conversations that we're having.
Oh, they're great.
Today, we had the conversation about talking and discussing this whole concept of receiving healing for yourself, as opposed to being in the conversation of sending healing to somebody else. And I would love to have you share about this, your experience of it, and I could share mine at some point. But just the whole conversation, it's a fascinating one to me.
Yeah. I think to help orient me even around the conversation, I like to go into like, where was the first place this showed up? And I was remembering how somebody that I knew had cancer, or sort of announced that they had cancer. And the immediate response from everybody was to like send healing. And I could just feel my whole body go, whoa. I know for me personally, I wouldn't want a bunch of people sending their healing, because it's energy, right? It's based on their beliefs, their own energy. And so I'm thinking, they're sending prayers out there, energetic, that may be full of their own fears. Like what would happen if the healing doesn't happen? And it also kind of took away a piece of that free will. But this person was sort of asking for the healing. But in that whole conversation, that I was witnessing this thing going on, I could really feel myself feeling this truth that really what we need to do is receive the healing. So whatever we're seeing or projecting onto somebody else that they need fixed, no matter what it is, like if somebody's hurt and we see them as being hurt, like the highest place we can come from for somebody else is to see them as whole, just to see them that way, of not broken, not being somebody who's suffering, but to see them as whole. But then I'm like, but I can't see them really as whole unless I believe that for myself first, right? So then that's when it took the backward say like, oh, this is really about receiving, really deeply receiving our own healing and being powerful spaces for healing for others. So when we're receiving the healing and seeing ourselves free and clear of any injury, any disease, but just seeing ourselves healthy and breathing really fully and vibrant and having a lot of energy, when we can see that for ourselves and receive it for ourselves, like really, truly, like just take it in, receive our own healing, then we create this energetic environment that anyone who's then asking for healing, who's in our space, has a greater possibility of that being answered, because we're generating the energy that they're asking for, not because we're sending it to them or giving it to them, and but just because we are that space. And so that's kind of like the background of it. And yeah, it's been a journey of like learning that, because to this day people are still wanting to send energy. And there's a lot of healers out there, really wonderfully intended healers, who want to help other people, like and they know it, and they do it out of a space of not really fearing, but feeling that they are empowered with a healing power, which is amazing. However, they're not taking the time to receive that healing for themselves first and really feel their own clean, pure, whole energy before they even speak to somebody else. So that's where I think that goes in. So I know you've had a lot of experience with it in your world too. So I'd love to hear just some of your reflections. And
Well, yeah, because you introduced this concept to me and some other people as part of a Facebook group a few years ago. So I've had years of being able to be in alignment with this. And as soon as I read it, it felt completely true to me. It was one of those, oh my God, yes, this has been a missing piece for a long time. I so get this feels so much better. So one of the things I've started doing, my particular practice with this, is if somebody is in a state where they're wanting a shift, they're asking, because if they're not asking, it can't happen anyway. Law of attraction, right? Ask and it is given. If they're not asking, there's no giving. So if they're asking, what I do is put myself into a place of what you were just describing, of just feeling inside of me the wholeness and the healing and receiving. And my God, it feels so good receiving that energy for me. And then I image the other person, or I have a picture of them, or if I'm with them in person, I just am with them energetically. And sometimes I'll expand my healing space. Like if I'm physically with them, I can just expand the space if I know they're asking, to include them in that whole energetic field.
Yeah.
Right. Most of the time, this is happening when I'm in one place and they're in another place.
Yeah.
But the receiving piece of it is so powerful. I feel better. There's nothing that I'm having to leave me or go from me to someplace else. I just love how much better I feel. Yeah. And as a result, it is a more whole place for everybody.
Yeah.
They don't have to do anything. They don't have to deal with what's being thrown at them, energetically, like you were saying earlier. They don't have to deal with it.
Right. And there are a lot of people, and I say this kind of laughingly, but there are so many people who really love to pray for other people, out of never understanding what it feels like to receive their own healing, like never know what that means and don't believe in it. Actually, they don't really truly believe in it. So projecting a lot of disbelief onto people and doubt and worry. And those things they just don't have a place when somebody is actually asking for healing. Like the doubt, the worry, the concern, those things are law of attraction based. They're going to bring up more worry, concern,
right,
fear, and it's just not helpful. It's just not helpful for the field that we're the energy that is actually doing the work. So
right. So I want to add something, because we were talking about this and I was sharing with you that years ago, and you probably have had the same experience of listening to an Abraham recording, and it might even have been on tape, it was so long ago, about the fact when people are sending energy to somebody who's not asking, it can't go to that person if they're not asking, because asking is given, right? So people think they're doing something when they're sending energy to somebody who's not asking for the energy.
Yeah. And it's
right. So there's that piece. So Abraham said it goes to the people who are asking.
Right. Yeah.
For that energy.
Right.
So what if somebody, so this coming up on the conversation you were having about the fear or the worry,
right,
for example, or the concern or the, being attached to an outcome.
Right.
I'm sending healing so you can get better. Well, what if that's not in that person's highest good, to quote, get better, or getting better actually means something completely different than what that person intended. Exactly. And they're sending healing. So I was just having this awareness, like let's say somebody has been told that a friend of theirs has the flu, and they want healing because they have a tight schedule, right? And they need to get over the flu in order to keep working or something. I've seen this posted, right? So people are sending them healing for getting over the flu, but then they're in the conversation about the flu, which expands the conversation about the flu to stay longer. So it's not healing. So what could be done then is what?
Well, first of all, just seeing ourselves being completely virus free, and the word virus doesn't even have to be in how we are feeling, but just like feeling that flow of energy within us, like the feelings that we have when we're not sick. Like I feel vibrant. I feel like I have a lot of energy. I feel myself being whole and complete. I can breathe easy, because I think breathing is one of those places that is one of the first things affected when we're sick, like when we have something happen. So I'm always constantly being consciously aware that I'm receiving that breath of life, right? Like, feels
Yeah.
so good to breathe, because when we're even tense or anything's going on, that's the first thing that we tense up our breath. We just hold it. So I'm doing that. I'm just breathing for myself. And if you're with somebody else who's not able to breathe, they start to breathe a little easier. I mean, just it's just like a mirroring thing, right? So that's the first thing I do, is just breathe and feel all of my systems working. I pay attention. I know that my body is self-healing. I will go through this whole thing for myself, and everybody's going to have something different, but this is how I do it. Like, my lungs are working, my breath is working, my nervous system is working, my brain is functioning at this really heightened awareness. My lungs are working, my circulatory system is working, my skin is all intact and holding me in, and oh, I love it. And it just feels so good. And like, it keeps us really healthy ourselves, right? It keeps us in a healthy vibration. So when other people are around, they can also feel that relief, right? Like, it's just the energy, and then they get the relief enough to believe that it can shift for them too. Yeah.
So I'm just having this amazing download
Yay.
for you around your activation of truth, is that when you are in this process of receiving all of this and acknowledging for yourself every piece of you that's healthy and functioning according to plan, that you are in truth.
Oh, absolutely.
And so that activation is also in the space.
Yeah. 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 And the truth for somebody may be that they don't need to actually get over the flu. What may be the real
Right.
truth is they need to rest
Right.
and recuperate, or have some sort of downtime, detox from
Right.
their environment, and we just don't know. But keeping ourselves in that receiving mode will really allow for whatever is going to transpire to transpire with more ease, without more
Yes.
resistance. And so if they need to, if their higher self is asking for, really wanting them to step back and rest a little bit, that will happen in a way that everything's taken care of. Like, there won't be a financial strain if they need to do that. So we create a space that includes everything that is, that's possible. Like, we become the field of all possibilities, just by recognizing the health of the universe and the health of our body. So,
So trying to get over or push away is
right.
just keeping it there because you're
Yeah. Oh,
focusing on it.
yeah. I just, it is
So
so
much.
true. Like, whatever we resist persists. It's so true.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So true.
Yeah.
I get it completely.
Hmm.
So another aspect of this then is, if people who like to pray and they are in the habit of sending healing, let's go through a very specific, tangible story of how exactly, step by step, someone could receive healing. So let's say someone has received news that a friend or a relative has ended up in the hospital for some reason, and let's say they had a car accident.
Mm-hmm.
They're in the hospital. So step by step, how could this person receive healing for themselves that could benefit this other person if they were asking?
Yeah. And sometimes that's overwhelming. So, like, the very first thing that I would do is suggest checking in to find where's the most fear. What's the fear about? And then feel yourself at the opposite end of that fear. So if the fear would be like, oh my God, what about their family? Like, that would, I mean, just for an example, that would be like the first thing that would come through. And then you breathe in and say, my family is always supported. I am always supported. and then and go through like that whole process of just feeling like whatever those little subtle feelings are, and then feeling the opposite end of that. Like I'm always supported. Things do work out for me. Um, I'm at peace. So if you're concerned about somebody else being not at peace, then, you know, take that peace on for yourself. I'm at peace. Um,
I would
I
add, things always work out for everybody's highest good.
things always work out for everyone's highest good. And I believe, like, take that in personally, like things really always work out for my highest good. And I say that like with a little wink because it's so true. And the more you understand that, the more it feels like a secret, but it's like everybody knows. But anyway, so go back to the healing thing. But I go through that whole process and like just notice like what thoughts are coming up. And sometimes even the thoughts of like of like how other people are treating that person, like the doctors, like some people may be very afraid that somebody would have to go to the hospital. And because hospitals are the scary place, right? Then you go into this space of like seeing yourself always supported by the best care, you know, like all the people that come into my life are always there for my highest good. So I'm receiving the thing, right? So, and because it's our fears that are really that we're projecting on somebody else. So this is really a good place to start saying, oh, you know, I feel supported by all the professionals that help me everywhere I go. I see all of my financial, you know, my financial planner helping me to the highest good. My doctors are always taking the best care of me. Going through that and feeling that ownership of what that feels like in your body, to have that kind of support, to have like that and that trust, like, oh, I trust those people so much. That may not be your experience, which is why it's so hard for you when you're
Right.
looking at somebody else. But going through that whole process and receiving that for yourself helps you shift enough, feels good, you know. But go through everything that you're feeling. Like sometimes some people will say, oh, that's so scary, I don't know what I would do. Then just take a minute and just go into that space of feeling yourself being courageous. I am so courageous. And I do know what to do in every moment. Maybe I don't know the big picture, but I know and I trust that what I need to have happen in any moment will come to me when I need to know. So just going through like that whole process and breaking down, I mean, because it's, especially if it's somebody close to you, they're going to mirror the little things that are in your life, right, that are inside of you. And you can just, it's a beautiful way to really heal yourself.
Right. I
Um,
just recently went through this because my mom went into the hospital.
yeah.
And I ended up going into, she was in the emergency room. And so a number of my family members went, and I was in the room with her. Everybody left, and then I was in the room with her by myself. And I remember being as aware as I could in the moment to stay in my own energy field
Mhm.
and not project onto her my stuff. Right. So that was the first thing I was conscious of being able to do, is just like, my energy field is not helpful if I have any fear going on here. So I'm
Right.
just going to stay in my own energy field, and I'm going to trust, because I have a very strong relationship with my guidance, that my guidance is going to lead me step by step through what to say to her, when to hold her hand, when to go get a nurse to get more blankets or whatever it was that she needed. Right. So for about 2.5 hours, that's what I was doing. It was very helpful when she went off to have a CAT scan and I couldn't go with her. Then I called you, but then I was able to just
Right.
have some space where I could just breathe and get back even more onto my own center. But it was so helpful for both of us that I was calm, that I was in my own energy field and not needing any solution to happen for her. Like if she lived or died, she's still living, but if
Yeah.
she lived or died, I couldn't be attached. That was hard, of course, but fortunately I practiced it a lot and was able to do that. But it was so, I could see how much it helped her. be able to be relaxed in the environment of what was going on.
Mm.
And I'd hold her feet when her feet were cold, or her
Mm.
hand when her hands were cold, right?
Yeah.
But it was really helpful to just have been practicing this for a while
Mm-hmm.
and apply it in that situation.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. Some people like to like put their whole energy over top of a situation. And sometimes it's not helpful, but when we're just talking about just praying, like just the act of praying, not the act of being the person who necessarily has to make decisions, because that's a whole nother conversation.
Right. Yeah.
Still want to be in this like receiving healing, but when you're in a situation where you're actually responsible for making decisions for somebody, it takes a whole nother conversation.
Right.
Where, of course, trust yourself, trust your guidance. You do, like, you have to do a lot of trusting, but that being able to detach from the outcome is one of the hardest things to do, but it's the most important thing to do when we're working with other people, right? Because we don't want to put our own will, like impose our will on top of theirs because our need for them to stay alive. Well, okay. Like sometimes, and I'm guessing that a lot of people who are watching this may not be as afraid of death as most people, because we kind of see the other side, we hear things, so
Mhm.
we're connected in a different way, but there's it's the biggest fear. Death really is the biggest fear, and it causes fear in so many weird places, but it really is the fear of death. It's like behind the fear of public speaking,
Right.
the fear of like, dogs and, like spiders, like there's something in that. Like we're afraid, like if that happens, then I would die. Okay.
Right.
So, so when we're coming up and seeing other people in a non-healthy state, almost immediately it brings up those unconscious fears of death. And then doesn't matter if they've got a sniffle or not.
Right.
Just brings it up. So us staying very clear and unattached is like the highest service that we could do for anybody. And yeah.
And that will bring us back as to have a practice. If you want to be detached, is come back to your own energy.
Come back to your own energy. And some people think it's very selfish, but I completely will stand by, like I have been able to see the effects on other people of me coming back to my own energy, the positive effects,
Right.
opposed to the negative effects when I don't, right? Because I'm projecting and all that stuff. And it's not a healthy environment if I'm not in my own energy. Like it's toxic for other people when we're projecting onto them and we're putting our fears onto other people, we're blaming them. Like, so all of this happens when we're attached to, when we're attached. And then when we just come back to our own energy, I mean, you can just feel like that whole just coming
Big
back.
relief. It's such a relief. Yeah, I'm with you about the whole selfish thing. I think the judgment about selfish
Mm-hmm.
is created by people who are very selfish and want other people to pay attention to them, but they don't take ownership of that.
Yeah.
Oh, they have a judgment. They're projecting their judgments onto others. We have to be selfish. That we only have ourselves. I
Yeah.
just reading an Abraham quote the other day in their daily quote, like everybody else is what we assign to them. Right? We are our own vibration, and everything else is what we assign to them. We are it. We are selfish. We have to be.
I think it's so beautiful. Like I love Abraham's work because it does give me permission to be selfish, but and at a very conscious level.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful when I say I'm important. Like I'm important. My energy, and I know that my energy makes an impact, I know it makes a positive energy impact when I'm feeling good, and it makes a
Right.
totally negative impact when I'm feeling bad. I mean, and it is like night and day. So me taking care of myself really affects everybody else. very selfish, yes, but also what a great service to the universe for
You bet.
me
You bet.
doing that way. So
Selfish in the highest good way.
selfish in the highest good. I mean, and that's it creates sovereignty. And like I said, you know, in the previous recording, it creates a sense of like, I am my own person, but it creates an awareness of how who we are affects other people. So there's this connection. You really get to see it full, like, real time when you pay
Right.
attention to yourself and you're just like, yes, I, you know, this energy, who I am is important. And it's not just important for it. I mean, even if it's only important for just me, that's enough. You know, like
It's
that's
enough.
enough.
I
And,
agree. It's enough.
and people will project a lot of, like you said, that we'll say just the conditioned side of selfishness, right? And the need to control. I think people use that selfishness, like, oh, you're so selfish, to try to control people. And you
Oh,
know,
yes.
to me, that's like, doesn't work. So
I know that about you.
yeah,
Well, and as I was saying, you know, don't be so selfish. Take care of you. Take care of me. Right? That is a control.
yeah, oh,
It's a
absolutely.
manipulation and control.
It's a huge manipulation. And yeah. So back to praying.
Yes.
and receiving and receiving healing for ourselves. I mean, so I would suggest, like, this is one of the things I would suggest, because there are a lot of people who just love praying for other people. I feel like that's their calling, really, is to do that kind of work. And you could have like a list of all of these people that you're praying for, like you would normally. And you know, my suggestion would be, go through that list. First of all, feel yourself as that, you know, whatever you're projecting on that person, whatever the element is, you know, having a tough relationship, or just feel yourself. My relationship is clear. My health is clear. My finances are clear. So whatever's going on, and could you imagine what kind of miracles you would be just attracting, going into that kind of an energy, and just feeling yourself whole and financially free, and whatever things that other people suffer from, those sufferings, you could be a part of their solution
Yes.
by doing that. So
Yes.
anyways, that's what I'd suggest, and do it a lot, because if you know, increase to 10, you know, if that's really on your heart, go from 5 to 10 people, and just be able to feel yourself receiving.
I love this. This is so powerful. Thank you
Well,
for sharing this.
thanks for inviting me to have this conversation with you.
You're welcome. I wanted to do it for a while, so I'm glad we created the time and just made this happen, because it's been impactful for me hugely, and I think other people would benefit as well if they chose to follow this.
Yeah. And it may seem foreign to some people, but I have a feeling that when you really try, so I know that someone who might listen to this might say, like, that's a little foreign from my belief system, but just trying it, and then you realize, like, oh, like, it just shifts you all into center, and it shifts you kind of into alignment with the healing that you're wanting for the other person. And then you get it. Like, it's like, oh, got it. But it's not a mental thing.
It
It's
isn't.
definitely a feeling thing, an emotional thing, and you can't think your way through it. It's like, just experience that.
And feel it in your body.
Yes, feel it in your body, in your toes. And if you have to meditate and feel all of, you know, like, do it every day. Do that healing process for yourself, so then you can be a healing catalyst for the entire world. I think that would be super helpful for all those who feel called to do healing work.
I agree. Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you so much for this.